there. With the CT scan, you know exactly where the cannula is, and you can go and divide that. Obviously, the patient is on cardiopulmonary bypass through the femoral vessels. And then also you can expose the apex, you remove that, and you put the new device there, somewhere there, and feed the cannula through the tunnel underneath, and anastomose there. This is the same thing with inserting a thoracic, taking the big device out and using a thoracic. If your device fails, these are the quick way of dealing with that. And this shows the incisions. This is where the heart rate 1 was, and that's the apex incision, and this is the approach to the outflow. And there are different ways of dealing with that problem. Following LED recovery, with traffic, Emma just mentioned briefly, you can actually go just tie off the cannula. You can leave the device in and cut and then you can remove the cable. No cardiopulmonary bypass is required. We have got a few patients that they live with a traffic inside their heart. Obviously, they are anticoagulated. This is after recovery. But then when you come to take these out after recovery, it's complicated. Knowing the anatomy of the device helps a great deal, because you can make incisions in certain areas and like around here and cut this section and this is the drive line and this. And then my clip is actually, this is the apex and the ascending part, and this is just showing the explantation. There are limited incisions. This one is a second intercostal space. The femoral vessels are mobilized for cardiopulmonary bypass, and then we have got a section there for there is the second intercostal. We have got the apex. We have got the femoral vessels to be able to get to different sections of there, to there, and the cable. This is now the ascending part. We have identified this exact areas with the CT reconstruction, and we mobilize the outflow. And then sometimes we actually use this to go on cardiopulmonary bypass. So tie that part off and cannulate that, because the heart is already recovered. So heart is coping quite well without the device. And the section is cannulated. The venous return can be established through the femoral vein. And now we would like to go to the apex and find that area. This is actually, sometimes we need to go and open the sternum, but not mobilize the heart. Just because some patients have frequent line infections, we don't want to leave any part behind. For that reason, this is the, yeah, that's good. So actually here, we are establishing cardiopulmonary bypass directly through this cannula to the aorta and the right atrium. If we want not to leave any part of that cuff behind, then we can do that. And then we open the apex and mobilize around the apex through an incision around 5th and 6th intercostal space. Sometimes 5th as well as 6th under this skin, because you want to get to the lower part of the cuff, to this area, to cut it and pull it out. cup is come out, also it's missed a bit of the tongue there. Some people worry about closing the apex of the heart after removing this cup, but it is actually quite a tough tissue because of fibrosis around that. We just use a continuous suture and close the apex of the heart. And there's no problem. Obviously, you have to inspect for presence of clot around that, and you have a very good vision of that actually. You can see through the hole, you can see the inside the ventricle. After clearing any debris or anything around that, you can just directly close that apex. Showing the closure of the apex. And you can possibly appreciate that the tissue there is very tough and very easy to close that. And after that, then we want to go to that area and pull this section out and cut the drive line, and then at the end of the operation, when everything is closed, we pull the drive line out because it is divided here. So what we do, we go there, there, and also we've been there to sort of cavigate. These hearts are very vulnerable to damage. If the heart has recovered, you want to protect it. And to protect it, you have to do minimally invasive procedures. Just pulling the cuff out again, ensuring this is repeated for some reason. When this is running again, I can answer questions because most of it is shown in here. After removal of the inflow, this part, we actually defibrillate the heart. Because it is the air. The air is very easy because the apex is the highest part at that stage. We gear it, we have got to transfer echo. After that, we then come off cardiopulmonary bypass. And this bit can be done off bypass. Another incision going to the lower part, and the device is there. And this is the cannula pulled out. You don't have to dissect it, it's pulled out also in that hole. And then we remove the body of the device with that small incision. That is the drive line is cut, the white part is the drive line, and the device body is pulled out through the same hole. That's it. I'm just showing the incisions up to the sort of second space. Submammary is on the left side. This is in the middle xiphisternum, and if you need the femoral belt cavitation, you can go there. Just showing the hardware. The hardware is a bit easier because the device is attached to the apex. So we have done only one of those. We have done only one recovery and removed the hardware. I think that's it. All of them are going to require, if we don't manage them carefully. But you have to use nitric oxide, you use mirarinone, we use sometimes nowadays sildenafil, levosimendan. You have to have access to these, and also you have to be very careful with the speed of the device, not to shift the septum to one side. So in spite of all of that, some patients are going to go back from the intensive care unit requiring right side support because the left side is not filling adequately. Or sometimes the patient is, they stop the mirarinone and others, or inotropes, it stopped earlier and the right ventricle packs off. So in that sort of case, you can't predict. But if you have any sign of right-sided failure, you should consider supporting the right side for a while. Right side support after LVAD is a bit of a nuisance because if they don't come off, we have got a long-term device on the left. Right side is dependent on that. It's a bit difficult what to do with that. But most of the time, after a few weeks, you can go and take it out. So if you manage them carefully, you can get away with signs of right-sided failure definitely better supported. I don't know if Emma would like to add anything to these, because that's a very important question.
Evet.
Khaghani, thank you very much for your mindful, for sharing your mindful experience with us. I want to ask a question. You are implanting this device, device, with fibrillation. I mean, you didn't do any cardioplegia. This is one thing I want to ask, and I want to ask another question. Do you combine stem cell experience with this device?
The first one, they're not using cardiopulmonary bypass, they're not using the cardioplegia for inserting the thing there. It's something that we do, and some other centers do. Actually, we do sometimes beating heart, because the heart is absolutely empty. We have got a big hole, we put the sucker there, the heart is empty, and we wouldn't eject. So you can do that, heart actually is beating. I prefer nowadays the fibrillating the heart, because you can examine inside the heart for the clot and everything else. You can use cardioplegia. There's no really rule about that. And people who use cardioplegia, they say that the incidence of right heart support after insertion of the left is similar. Well, I just think that you can protect the right ventricle better if you don't use cardioplegia, particularly if the heart is beating. So it is your choice. You can use both. But I think the most important thing is that to make sure that the airing is adequate at the end. Fibrillating the heart for 10 or 15 minutes, I don't think does any harm, and it's just defibrillate so easy. The other question there is a randomized, possibly Emma can answer that. I mean, there is going to be a multi-center trial about the stem cell and that sort of thing after insertion of the airbag and recovery. It's a big question there, and that is possibly one of the things that we are going to see more in the future, but currently we don't.
Evet, arkadaki.
Just as a comment, on the right side, I mean, as Asghar said, people in our lives all about managing the right, because you're only supporting the left, and you're supplying a good return back, you can stay the left. But many studies that don't really show any good predictors, but crudely, very much if the right is distended and not moving, then usually it will be in trouble. If it's just distended, it doesn't necessarily matter, because as you decompress the left, you shift the geometry by moving the septum, often it offloads it and improves the right spine. Through your experience, you can look at it, and the German centers have looked at a short axis dimension versus a long axis dimension, showing that ratio of distension and not moving is worse than the right side doesn't cope. If you look at distended ventricle and moving right side, it usually the right amount of decompression. And if they've got very high PA pressures, it can be a good sign, because it means the right's generating that high right pressure. Often you're in trouble when you've got distended non-functional right, low PA pressures generate. In terms of the stem cell study, as it says, there's a multi-center start with SCORE, group in New York, running a multi-center trial in the States, where the stem cells are injected in myocardium at the time of device implant, which just recruited its first 10 patients who were recent in that moment.
I think I totally agree that particularly the echo findings of the right ventricle, when it doesn't move, is not a good indication to go and put the right side device, because echo is not really that good for assessing the right ventricular function at that stage.